welcoming you back to the desk of Caddicarus. Join us as we partake into a new installment of Current Quickies.
Hello my duckies, and this time I've been tinkering around with Dungeon Hunter 5 on my iPhone. Cute. This game here is a lot of fun, and yes, to disclose it again, this is indeed a sponsored video, but have no fear because companies ask me to do these kinds of videos all the time, and I always refuse them unless I get to say 100% whatever I want, total freedom with what I want to say. And luckily, I am kind of addicted to this game, but I do have a few improvements and negativities to throw at it, and the guys that sponsored this video were very happy to do that and let me get on with it, so that's fantastic news. And to go into more detail, let's kick on with the reviews.
Yes, like I said, this game is a lot of fun and I'm hugely addicted to it. Dungeon Hunter 5 is my first dive into the Dungeon Hunter series, and to be honest, I'm always looking for good iPhone games whenever I'm traveling and there are no 3DS or Vita games to play. So fortunately, I can certainly say that this is good, and for free to play, holy shit, it's impressive. DH5 is an action RPG that is heavily reliant on combat, outsmarting enemies with specific environmental weaknesses, looting treasure, leveling up and fighting the odd epic boss. And it must be doing a lot right because I've been playing this for tens of hours so far and I don't plan to stop. Once getting into the bulk of the gameplay, the combat in this game is very fun indeed, and the best way I can describe it is that it's kind of like The Witcher but top down. So the enjoyably fast-paced, satisfying beatdown, spellcasting, multiple types of weapons from melee to staffs and projectiles and sneaky dodging are all used to play together, and it's very fun and oftentimes difficult. Unfortunately though, despite having some incredibly cheesy and entertaining voice acting that sold me immediately, the story and the campaign itself is a little weak, and you have little motivation to move it forward since everything that happens to your bounty hunter characters happens at the very beginning before you're given a chance to care about what's even going on. So the main villain, who we thought was our friend, doesn't really carry any emotional significance or drive for you to feel vengeful at all. But for more about the gameplay, while going through the linear stages, you are definitely rewarded and tested for exploring, not too often mind you, but just enough to not be repetitive. There are treasure chests with extremely valuable items at stake through each stage, and when you notice a path off the given objective, it's not only possible to stumble into them, but the game may also swarm you with difficult enemies before you can reach it and provoke you to push your player stats and skill to the limits to let you know something worth your effort is at the end of each track. The online systems and co-op I found extremely novel and enjoyable to mess around with, since you can not only browse the game's hub world and jump into real-time chats with random currently online players for advice, but you can pick random players around the same level as you to assist you in any story stage, and depending on their performance, you can even ask them to be allies in your limited friend slots, making companion characters that are actually worth something and make you carry thought going into who you want to keep as allies in case you run out of space for more. The game can be also pretty difficult, as I mentioned earlier, because of the lovely depth in the RPG constant and variable systems. As you start the game, yes, you can get through the first few missions relatively easily if you're lucky with looted armor and weapons, but in order to succeed in further stages against higher levels, you need to take on board different tactics from mindlessly blasting through each earlier stage by approaching them slowly, learning enemy attack patterns and behaviors, learning when the best times to attack and run and dodge are, and figure out which enemies deserve elimination priority when they're in a group depending on how they deal damage and how they can disrupt your fighting as well as hurt you. This is all amplified by the main basic principles of environmental weaknesses within the game, with an elemental circle representing everything you need to know about what elemental weapons or projectiles are strong against others and what elemental armor protects the best against others. And unless you learn these principles and manage correct inventory space, weapon management, and evenly distribute where you put the effort into leveling up items instead of throwing all your eggs into one basket, it can get near impossible in some stages. It's as much a game about preparation and management as it is about action and shit beating, and I really loved how it did it. Not to mention the items and inventory system built around evolving and fusing together unwanted items to make them stronger I found awesome, pretty deep, and pretty unique, especially considering you get elemental bonuses and perks for fusing particular items within other items, much like The Witcher 3 I suppose. And it's one of the most customizable and open games for upgrading equipment I've ever played. Running out of inventory space or desperately want to keep upgrading with heavy items taking up too much space? No need to travel all the way to a place to sell items or mess with middlemen. Do it instantly and do it literally however you want to. And it feels fantastic to progress like this and make you feel like you aren't just upgrading for the sake of it, but also putting the thought process into how you upgrade and what items you want to sacrifice for particular games. There's costs and benefits to absolutely everything you do, and it's a total tinkerfest. I just wish the crafting was a lot better. Yes, there's actually a separate crafting menu in the game, and I must be honest, I haven't actually crafted a single thing in this game, purely because the items needed for these items are too rare and there are not too many things to craft anyway, despite a few tiny percent elemental boost bracelets, at least as far as I've seen so far. The controls work wonderfully for a touchscreen and have commands placed in perfect areas for my thumbs, but to be honest, I wish a little bit more ironing out went into the control scheme as a whole. There's no lock-on feature at all, which can get pretty annoying with long-range staff weapons and projectiles that don't know how to hit their mark in intense boss encounters, and I like the idea of setting the dodge rolling to a countdown meter that needs to refill over time, but for the hectic nature of the combat, I felt like it would have been much better to implement a stamina bar, since running around with absolutely no way to dodge isn't a nice feeling and doesn't encourage better dodge management within a fight. Instead, it just punishes you for using all of your dodges too quickly and not giving you a chance to use one on minimum stamina if you mess up, and teaches you to be a little bit more sparing with your stamina the next time. In this game, you either have a dodge or you don't have a dodge, and I don't love that system to be honest. But hey, let's just mention the presentation for a second. Wow, it's an incredible looking iPhone game. Yes, these visuals, along with the huge amount of game to actually play, is on an iPhone. The effort gone into the game's universe, visual, sound design, and music is really something to behold, and I have no complaints about it whatsoever. Maybe except the fact that frame drops occurred with me on a few missions whenever my Wi-Fi connection was interrupted, or perhaps my storage space ran a little low, but it's worth considering that cache clearing may make the experience a little bit smoother. That's not game breaking though, because of the amount of gameplay on offer here. The missions are everywhere, not only in the story and the replayability at higher difficulties for much greater rewards, and not only with the constantly updating online daily dungeon raid challenges for specific items needed for fusion stated by the item's description, but also with the strongholds in the game. Like MGS5, I suppose, you have your own stronghold in which you can not only gain more currency in the background, but having to manage, upgrade, and fuse more items onto minions to protect your stronghold against attackers, and even go out to battle other players and their minions yourself to earn more reputation, steal thousands of coins and crystals used for fusions and upgrading, and come out with rare items for the same purpose. And all of the gameplay, despite being free to play, manages its free to play model admirably by not forcing players into them at any point, and like Fallout Shelter, just provides players that want to pay a little bit extra a few more benefits that don't affect or detract from the core experience, such as freedom with how often you can upgrade and how often you can battle against other strongholds with stamina. Trust me, I haven't actually paid a single cent into this game, and I'm still going for hours of gameplay and don't feel like I had to pay to advance absolutely anything at all. It's great enough as it stands for being completely free, and it has a habit of tickling the just one more mission mentality in the back of your head until you go to bed at 5 AM, which was not me, I swear. I've got to say, I was pleasantly surprised here.
So, I give this game a... Actually, you know what? No, this is a sponsored video. I ain't gonna give it a rating. All I will say is that I'm massively enjoying it. I think you'll really love it too. And even if you decide to check it out and you don't like it, no harm done, because it is free after all. Thanks for watching, everybody. Phew.